Oh yay, let's finish up Unit 3. Let's do the 3.08 Unit 3 quiz. Woohoo! You finished the Project 2 unit. Now review what you've learned in this unit and then take the unit quiz. Oh, before you take the unit quiz, review the following topics: lighting rigs, main light, energy, additive color mixing, spot size, spot blur and distance, ray tracing, fill lights, backlight, ambient light, overhead light, spotlights, RGB and energy keyframes, default lighting, and negative light. Lighting rig. A lighting rig is the name for a combination of lamps used to light a 3D space. Click Lighting Rig to learn about the different parts of the lighting rig you'll be setting up for your stage. The main lamp. This lamp will provide most of the light for the stage. Ambient light is used to simulate light bouncing back from where the audience might be sitting. Two fill lamps will light some of the shadows missed by the main lamp. A spotlight is a sharp, round light you'll animate to track a ball as it rolls across the stage. The backlight lights the backdrop, gives the objects on stage a nice highlight, and throws texture shadows on the stage and curtains. A negative light is used to turn all the lights on and all off at once. Instead of doing that for each lamp separately, negative lamps cancel out light from other lamps. And the overhead light throws down a light from directly above. This adds some highlights to the tops of things, and it helps to minimize some of the harsher shadows. Which type of light cancels out light from other lamps? I believe it's negative. Yes. Stage pieces. The stage model is made up of several different smaller pieces. Curtains. The curtains are made from curves extruded out along the z-axis. The curtains share the same material and texture. If you make a change to one, the other will be changed as well. Hills. The hills are a flat mesh with a small amount of depth. They have material and texture added. There is a small distance between the hills and sky backdrop. Moon. The moon is made from a flat cylinder. It is animated to swing back and forth. The sky is a flat mesh with a small amount of depth. It has material and texture added. The ball is made from a sphere. It is animated to roll across a stage. The stage is a complicated mesh shape. It provides the back and base for the floor of the lamp. The chairs are complicated mesh shapes. The left chair is animated to spin around and when the ball hits it. The stage floor is a plane with very small depth. Placed on top of the stage shape, it gives the floor a different material and texture. The main light. The main light is where most of the light in this project came from. It's the brightest light and it creates the strongest shadows. Its colors set the mood for the stage. You put the main light above and to the right of the stage. Energy is the brightness of a light. Each lamp has an energy value between 0, which is completely turned off, and 10, its brightest setting. In this project, you'll be using energy values between 0 and about 1.2, because anything brighter than that would wash out the stage with light. Additive color mixing. Additive color mixing is the name for what happens when lights of different colors meet in the same area. With paint, the more colors you add, the darker the paint will get. So here's the paint, right? And remember, when we click and put these colors together, you'll notice that in the middle, they turn to black. With light, however, the more colors you add, the whiter it gets. So notice in the middle, when we have all three colors together, it turns white. Quiz. What happens to a light If you add a lot of colors to it, it gets whiter. Spot size, blur, and distance. Size, blur, and distance are the three ways to change the shape of the spot lamp's cone of light. Click the buttons to learn more. Spot size is how wide the cone is in degrees. A higher spot size makes a wider light cone. Spot blur controls how much of the light cone's edge is blurry. A higher spot blur makes a smaller inner cone of solid light. Distance is the length of the light cone before it starts to fade out. Quiz: if you want to change the width of a light cone, which setting would you change? The spot blur, the spot width, the spot size, or the spot grow? If you want to change the width of the light cone. Spot size is how wide the light cone is in degrees. So the correct answer would be spot size. Ray tracing is a rendering process that calculates the paths taken by simulated rays of light. This makes more realistic looking lighting and shadow effects, but it can increase rendering time. The main lamp in our project used ray traced shadows. Fill lights. Fill lights improve the lighting by softening or removing shadows that the main light doesn't catch. The fill lights will be linked, which means that if you change a setting for one, the other will be changed as well. Fill lights are usually dimmer than the main light. Question: which of these things does a fill lamp do? Does it make the main lamp dimmer? Does it soften or remove shadows? Does it turn off the main lamp or make shadows sharper? Remember, it softens and removes shadows. Removing shadows. On a real stage, you'd need to add more lights to remove shadows. With 3D modeling, you can change an object's settings to make it stop casting shadows. To remove shadows, you'll turn off the traceable button for the object's material. This way, the material won't be used to create shadows when you render using ray tracing. No specular is a lamp setting that keeps the light from reflecting off objects. When you have a lot of lamps in a scene, it's good to use this setting for some of the lamps to limit the number of reflected lights. Linked duplicates are objects that share the same settings. When you change a setting for one object, the linked duplicate is changed as well. The location and rotation of each linked object can be different. You'll create linked duplicates of the fill lamps, which you did in your project. Backlights. A backlight is a light placed behind an object to create a highlight around the object's edges. You use the backlight to highlight the edges of an object and to light the backdrop at the back of the stage. You used a hemi-lamp as the backlight. A hemi-lamp is designed to look like the light from a cloudy sky, bright and broad. Its direction is more important than where it is. Question: which of these things does a backlight do? Does it highlight the edges of an object? Does it provide the main lighting for the scene? Does it shine straight down from above? Does it make other lights dimmer? Or does it light the backdrop? Remember, it highlights the edges of an object because it's right behind it. Textured lamps. Like objects, lamps can be given textures. Textures applied to a lamp can affect the brightness and color of different parts of a lamp's light. You'll add a texture to the backlight lamp on the next page. Ambient light is the natural light in a location that isn't directly created by a person. One of the things that make lighting complicated is the way light bounces off things. Blender only calculates light moving in a single direction. You can simulate the natural way light bounces off things by adding more lamps. You'll add ambient lights to simulate the effect of light bouncing off the faces of an audience and back onto the stage. Spotlights follow an object as it moves around a stage. Spotlights are used to draw the viewer's eye to specific things. In real life, spotlights are often operated by people, but Blender can make a spotlight track a moving object. Track to constraint. The track to constraint option causes one object to follow or track another object. The object being followed is called the constraint. When you use track to constraint with a spotlight, the center of the spotlight's cone of light will follow the other object. Question: when you use the track to constraint option with a spotlight, which one is the constraint? The object being followed, the spotlight, the other lights in the scene, or the x-axis? Remember, the constraint is the object being followed by the spotlight. Lighting keyframes let you make changes to the lamps in your project. There are several lighting keyframe types, but you'll use only 2 of them in this project. To add lighting keyframes, the mouse pointer needs to be in the lamp buttons panel. Rgb keyframes let you change the lamp colors. Energy keyframes let you change the lamp and brightness. Question: to change the brightness of a lamp in an animation, what type of lighting keyframe would you use? RGB, axis, energy, or power? Energy. Default lighting is the lighting your project starts out with before you animate. You created default lighting in the previous labs. Before you start animating lamps, it's a good idea to create keyframes to save the default lighting settings. When you have many lamps, all with many RGB and energy keyframes, it can be easy to lose track of the default settings. Negative light. A lamp set to give out negative light will darken all the other lights in a scene. The higher the energy of a negative lamp, the more darkness it will create. Adding a negative light lamp can be an easy way to turn all your lights off at once. Question: which of these things can a negative light lamp do? Change the length of the animation, darken the other lights in a scene, change the RGB curves of the other lights, add energy keyframes to the main lamp. Darken the other lights in the scene all at once. All right, that concludes our review. Let's go ahead and take the quiz. Open up your quiz. Question 1. In lighting, what is energy? The number of lights in a scene, the number of rays in a light, the brightness of a light, or the reflectivity of light? If you're not sure of the answer, you can rewind this video and find the page on energy. Question 2. When you add many colors to a light, the light gets darker, wider, bluer, or rainbow colored. If you're not sure, rewind the video and find the answer. Question 3. Which of the following settings lets you change the length of a light cone? Is it distance, sample, ray tracing, or soft size? Question 4. Which type of light is positioned behind an object to create a highlight around the object's edges? Is it a backlight, overhead light, ambient light, or negative light? Question 5. Which type of lighting keyframe lets you change the lamp colors? Ambient keyframes, negative keyframes, energy keyframes, or RGB keyframes? Once again, we covered all of this information in this short video. Just rewind the video to find the answers. Make sure you get an A. When you're finished, you can save your responses and submit your quiz. If you didn't get an A, rewind the video, find the answers, and retake the quiz until you do. Good.